2. Two, check. That hits the spot. Oh, two. That's very refreshing. Two. What's up? What's up, folks? How's it going? How are you doing? Controversial opinion: Diet Pepsi is as good. I can't say I agree, Max, but I'm not mad about it. Honestly, I'll have a Diet Pepsi sometimes. I think a Diet Pepsi is a little bit sweeter. I'd really rather have a Diet Coke. Sometimes a nice little ice cold Diet Pepsi is fine too, though. The wild cherry is good. I agree with that. That is very good. Sometimes it's nice to have a little Diet Pepsi. You know, even sometimes with certain meals, you want something maybe a little bit sweeter, you know? It's maybe a little bit more of a sweet treat. I've never seen the nitros. I've never once seen one of those nitro Pepsis. Never. Oh, I really needed that. Really needed that. Nice 2K. Thanks, Comrade Bushy. They have both diet and zero sugar versions of multiple sodas at work. It really is like such a capitalism thing, right? All the different... You both have a diet soda and a zero sugar version. Neither of them have sugar. Both of them are slightly different. This is the endless innovation you get when you have these capitalist incentives. You get this kind of wonderful innovation. They're different. They're different artificial sweeteners. Like I think Diet Coke is aspartame, and Coke Zero is sucralose, I believe. And then, of course, those two companies own every single other form of soft drink. Good morning, Regime Pilled. Oh. Chad, are you proud of me? I did my yoga. I did my stretches. I did my little stretchies. I guess I could do it. I get so much sunlight in here in the morning. Maybe I should do it in the morning with the sun streaming in. That's even more epic. But I did do my stretchies for... I put on some relaxing synth music. Some relaxing, soothing synth music and did my 10 minutes of stretchies. How's the neck? Honestly, it does feel better. I still have a bit of pain, but like excuse me. I'm drinking that Coke too quickly. Give me like a week or two of doing this every day, and I feel like I'm going to do some significant... I feel good. My back, my neck feels pretty good right now. It's nice. Yeah, same with me, GMO Radio. I really didn't think I was going to stay up for the game last night. I was like, oh, I'm tired. I'm just gonna like lie in bed. I'll watch the first quarter and I'll probably go to sleep. And I ended up watching the whole damn game. And it was a frustrating loss, GMO Radio. I mean, the Clippers are really good. I mean, they have 3 like Hall of Fame players in their starting lineup, so it's like, and they're playing very well. So, there's a difference though between losses like last night and like when losses that are painful to watch, when you don't even have fun watching the team play, and there's no hope for the future, and it's just depressing. You know? I can watch this new look Raptors team, and even when they lose like last night, they still played a really good game against a really solid team, and you know, looked good. The offense still looks really good. It's like, it's a little disappointing they couldn't win, but it would have been an upset, you know? But it's at least fun to watch. You watch them, they seem to enjoy playing together, you know? They're actually like running an offense and scoring the basketball, which is not what they were doing previously. You know, it's nice. It's nice to see. The beginning of the season was very depressing. Very, very bad vibes. What's the next game on this road trip? They got to pick up another win on this road trip. They're having fun, and that's what's most important. Absolutely right. Yeah, Kawhi looked really good. Paul George was really good. I mean, it's their Clippers are really good now. That's a pretty solid starting lineup when you have James Harden, Paul George, and fucking Kawhi Leonard. Not much you can do with that. What's the next game? Okay, so against the Jazz. Schedule doesn't get much easier. The Jazz are pretty good. Hopefully they can pick up that win. It's tomorrow at 9:30. The Celtics and the Heat. The Bulls should be no problem. I'd say they got to win 4 out of their next 6. And the Jazz, the Celtics, the Heat, the Bulls, the Knicks, and the Grizzlies again. I think they got to get 4 of those. How's everyone doing? That was my whole night last night. I hung around. I watched the basketball game. You know. I'm solo parenting right now, which is totally fine. It's fun. We've been having a good time. Boys week over here. He just got back to school, so he doesn't really have any homework, so it's a little bit less stressful. Trying to think of something cool I can do with him Friday or Saturday, now that my Saturday's free. So that's really all I have going on right now. Blazers and Thunder. It's crazy how good the Thunder are this year. Maybe y'all could get together and send me the freaking the stop motion videos. My daughter can Roger Ebert that bad boy. I'll send it to you right now, Marty. I got Drive open right now. Where is it? I will send it to you right now. Right the fuck now. Or will I? Okay, here we go. There you go. Trampolinium was a hit with my little one. I don't know if there is a trampoline place around here. Montreal Trampoline Park. there's really not any close. It would be a little bit of a trip. I'm looking up trampoline parks. I don't know if Google Maps has gotten worse on desktop. Kind of far. Well, we'll see. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. I don't need to plan it. I don't need to plan a trampoline park outing with my son on the live on the stream. I can do that later. They had a $10 early Saturday 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. jump, which we were hyped on. Oh, that sounds good. That sounds very good. Trampoline center. This place. Love getting the early bird special. Theme park. Yeah, it's weird. There doesn't seem to be a lot like in Montreal, which I find a little surprising. There's a couple on the outskirts. I'll think about it. So, I mean, we don't need to chit-chat too long today. Now that we've had this really entertaining intro where I look at a screen away from me and look at various trampoline parks that I could possibly go to. I feel like for a while there, every other shop was either a trampoline park or a vape shop. You got to combine them both. Combine them both so you get these little kids hooked up with their little candy flavored vapes on the way in. Did you see the latest tunnel story? I think I saw one in the Discord. Was that someone was like tunneling into a business to steal something? A lot of tunneling going on. I should have a tunnel. When we have the TRRS compound, when we have the TRRS friendship compound, we gotta put some tunnels down in that bad boy. You know? For sure. In case they ever try to pull a Koresh on us. We want to have a way out, you know?
You can count on funny business. Have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Rob and Triangle friends, I'm working on my own tunnel, not a commas tunnel, and I'd like you to blog about it to raise awareness.
Thank you, Praxit. I will. I'll put that in my blog. I'll mention that in the blog. Have you ever watched the congressional hearings after Waco? Horrifying. I imagine it is. I mean, I remember like Bill Hicks shortly before his death. That had happened like really, like probably a few months before he died, and I know he was really into the kind of conspiracies about that, because I think he probably knew Koresh because it was like in that area where he operated. Chuck Schumer basically says that the FBI has the right to roll up and kill you if they feel like it. Yeah, good. Not even kill you, but like burn you. Like, you know? Burn down the whole place. Bunch of people inside. That's kind of mess. Like, if you're worried about people being in a cult, and I get it, like, it seems like from what we know about Koresh and the Branch Davidians and all that stuff, there's some horrifying, fucked up things going on in there. But you know what else is horrifying and fucked up? Being burned alive. You know? That didn't help the people that were in there. It didn't help them to just, like, shoot incendiary shells at them until they caught on fire. They just kept saying they had all these weapons, while here in the U.S. of A. it's not illegal. Yeah, it's not illegal to stockpile a small army's worth of like weaponry. If you're an American, that's your God-given right to be able to do that. That doesn't mean that that's good, but like, you can't say something is legal and then burn them to death when they start doing the legal thing, no matter how uncomfortable it makes you. Dumbest guys from high school on the job, for sure. Let's get these guys to solve this caper. Abby Martin just arrested with others for blocking traffic intersection in Portland, Oregon. Oh, crazy. Good for Abby. So, yeah, we don't need... I'm going to put on this... I want to see this footage here from Empire Files. But we're going to be following... We're going to be following South Africa's case against Israel, being presented today at The Hague, the ICJ. A lot of incredible footage has already come out about that, and I'm sure there's going to be all kinds of interesting stuff that we can look at. It's going to be interesting to talk about this case. Hello, Dollar Bill. And I can't remember. I responded to Praxid's resub message, but I don't know if I thanked Praxid for the 22 months of Tier 1. Thank you, Praxid. This video does not want to play. This video does not want to play. Oh, and before I forget, I need to send a text. Nothing's going on well here. Nothing is going on. Nothing is working as it's supposed to here. I'm not texting my handler. I'm texting Paris Marks. What the fuck? Why isn't this working? What the hell? Good. No, this is. I like this. I like this, I think. The amount of notifications you have gives me anxiety. I have it only set to people that follow me, too. So far this stream, we've got Rob silently searching for trampoline parks and Rob silently texting. We're on a hot start. But I look cool. I look like a cool Canadian guy. What about that? That's something. That's something. Yeah, I was thinking about bringing my son to a trampoline park. Remember DeSantis launch video? It's funny because I had downloaded that to look at in a clip, and I just watched it like yesterday because I was going through some old files, and I found that it's truly amazing. That was the campaign that all these like conservative heavy hitters were counting on to be the one to, you know, absorb the Trump movement and like become the next nominee. And it's just right. It's amazing in retrospect that anyone thought that, like right out of the gate. They launched with this like awkward video of like DeSantis talking, cut in with like video footage of Elon Musk looking epic, with like audio ripped from this awkward Twitter space. What a weird moment that was. Like, what the who thought that? What high-powered consultant firm looked at that and be like, yeah, here we go. We got to launch with this. We're launching with this. Like, what the fuck, you know? Yeah, no shit, he has weird 4chan groypers on his campaign stuff. It's obvious. It's clear from what you see in the campaign has looked like. This guy's so fucking Canadian. See, I thought you would appreciate that, Orblady. Orblady fetishizes Canadian culture. She's like a weeb, but for Canada. She's maple pilled. That's right. That's right. They should pay me to consult instead. Seriously, like, I mean, it's not like I want to help Ron DeSantis, but like, I certainly would have the guts to look at that and be like, sir, we're not going with this. We're canceling this. We're not launching with this. We can't do that, sir. Like, certainly I'm smart enough to figure that part out. You know? Pour one out for our boy Chris Christie. They should have called him Donald Duck. That's what he looked like. Oh, thank you, Crad Babes. Thank you. I'm a little bit out of it today. Again, I thought I was going to go to bed early tonight and did not. I'm very tired. Well, I don't know. I wanted to watch this clip of Abby, but it's just won't work. So. Okay, so should we tonight? I'm going to work on it tonight. We'll see. I got a couple things. Oh, fuck. Oh, I can't hold one thought in my mind for... I still haven't finished this text. I love Bill Ackman posting through it. I love how multiple very powerful figures, billionaires, have just lost their minds because of Twitter. I think that's like, there's a lot we can criticize and complain about when it comes to Twitter. I think that's like pretty amazing, though, that some of the most powerful people in the world have had their brains totally melted from this website. That's something that I think we should all celebrate, including Elon Musk. It's that great. Lauren, my friend, the wonderful Lauren, had that really great tweet about that subject where it's like the one thing that these people can't have. The one thing that they can't have is respect on Twitter. It's the only thing that we have any power to deny them. And it's weird. It's like the more they can't get it, the more they need it. And then the more that they lash out. Neera Tanden, Eve Fartlow, not me, of course. Not me, obviously. I'm totally normal, but that's so true. It's just it's the one little bit of power that we have, It's the one thing the thing we have to the ability to take it away from them. Not me. I'm normal and cool, exactly, and have not had any adverse effects from posting on that particular website. Say something bad about Xi. No, I don't think so. No, I don't think I will. How about that? She hasn't liberated Canada yet. I mean, that's sure. But it's not even a criticism because I feel like they have a plan in place that's just like taking time to implement. It's like it's the long game. They're playing the long game and they don't act irrationally. I would like for them to try and get Canada on the Belt and Road Initiative, or try to make deals with First Nations communities to build infrastructure in these First Nations communities. Right now we have these exploitative oil and gas companies, including some Chinese companies, by the way. We should always mention that. We should mention that, right? We talk about like the Coastal GasLink pipeline. There are Chinese companies that are tied up in the conglomerates that are trying to build those pipelines. I would like China to directly negotiate with these First Nations communities on unceded territory and actually make an actual deal, not what this Canadian government has been doing, not what these like big oil corporations have been doing, where it's like, oh, maybe you'll get some jobs, but like actually offer a real deal. If we give you access to these resources on our unceded territory that we should be controlling, water treatment facilities, power plants, roads, rail, schools, you know? That's what Canada has not done for decades and decades and decades. Nor have these big oil companies that come in there and try and make these deals, you know? And if they say no, then they say no. As we've seen a number of times, China have tried to negotiate with certain other countries, and they're not involved, and China says, okay, you know, fine. But I would like to see that negotiation happen. You know, we talk a lot about the natural resources in some of these unceded territories and the way that these oil companies come in and act like they're being generous because, like, oh, you're getting jobs. You're getting jobs in your community. Isn't that great? And all the profits are going elsewhere, you know? It would be really interesting to see someone try and make an actual deal and actually offer these communities something real and tangible in exchange for having access to the resources that are on the lands that they're supposed to be able to control. I would really like to see how that would work. Short-term crumbs for zero long-term structural change, the neo-colonial blueprint. And it's interesting, like I was just talking about this with the Cavernacle on Twitter, but like talking about South Africa. We're talking about South Africa today. And like in the post-apartheid period, how there's never been radical land reform in South Africa, as much as these people claim, like people like Elon Musk claim, that there's some kind of genocide going on or radical land reform going on with these white farmers who own still majorities of the land. This land reform never happened. Why? Because of neocolonialism, because of the IMF. The IMF prevented the post-apartheid government from engaging in that kind of radical land reform because they were hampered by taking on a huge amount of debt, which they didn't even agree to, but the apartheid government agreed to. And that's why radical land reform never happened. And now you have people still talking about what's happening in South Africa as if there's some kind of radical land reform or white genocide going on, which is not true. But that's neocolonialism. And it's interesting because that allowed the U.S. to pretend to support Mandela and all of a sudden hold up Mandela as this kind of iconic figure. And it allowed people like Joe Biden to go give big fiery anti-apartheid speeches and anti-apartheid propaganda appearing in Hollywood films like Lethal Weapon 2. And everyone could pretend that we were against the horrible system of apartheid. And then when that system goes away, the neocolonialism takes over and prevents this new government from enacting a lot of the radical reforms that they wanted to enact. So structurally, everything stays the same, or maybe there's some minor tweaks or reforms. But structurally, in terms of like the power dynamics, internally and internationally, it stays the same. It all stays the same. Same thing with defunding the police, something that's not happening, that people are acting like it is. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's purely aesthetic. Yeah, it's absolutely, it's just aesthetic. And oh, that Fetterman clip is so fucking annoying. I legitimately have grown to hate this person. Fetterman. I wish this man nothing but the worst. He's a piece of shit. And he's stupid. He's a stupid man, and he's a piece of shit. Yeah, he's got some... I'm sure he's better than the average Republican when it comes to like labor law or like a few other social issues, but fuck him though. He's an asshole, and he sucks. And he's an idiot. And a liar. He specifically campaigned on being this progressive champion, and then he turns around and says, well, I never said I was progressive. Like, you're a liar. You're a Weasley fucking liar, dude. Phony Fetterman genocide, John. Yeah, so that clip is so annoying. South Africa should sit down. You think that's what he's kind of mentioning? Yeah. Should sit this one out. For sure, like that's, and again, talking about being basically a right-wing guy in terms of those beliefs, that's basically signaling that there's some kind of white genocide going on there right now, which is like a white supremacist Nazi talking point. But anyway, that's how neo-colonialism works, isn't it? Sometimes the aesthetics change, the rhetoric changes. Structurally, everything stays the same. The exploitation stays the same. What did Fetterman say? Let's see this. Look at this loser. Put on a suit. You look like shit, sir.
Who are they really fighting? It's a group of cowards. They hide in tunnels. They hide behind civilians. They attack, kill, and mutilate children, women, and they do that. Stop talking about proportion on that. They shot their best shot on October 7th, and they would have taken more lives if they couldn't do that, but they couldn't do it. And now let's also talk about that. Now we're talking about genocide. And now South Africa is bringing that kind of a trial. Maybe South Africa being able to sit this one out when they're talking about criticizing.
What is he talking about? Sit this one out. Yeah, the former victim of apartheid and exploitation has nothing to do with like standing up for Palestinian human rights or correctly calling out Israel for its egregious crimes. I actually think they're a really good candidate to do exactly that. And obviously this fucking moron, who probably can't even read, hasn't really even looked at the case that's being made. Like anyone else in the US government, they're just dismissing it out of hand without knowing nothing about it. Yeah, it's definitely a white genocide insinuation. Is his South Africa should sit this out as an insinuation that the apartheid leaders are still in place? No, I think it's an insinuation that there's genocide going on in South Africa of white farmers, white landowners. That's what he's talking about. Or he's just being a moron. Maybe there's plausible deniability that he's got there. I think it's a signal to these like white genocide people. It's like Elon Musk. So let's look at this case, okay? Let's look at this case and we'll see, like, all these US officials have been saying, like, oh, just like sit this out. It's totally without merit. It's totally without merit. Just sit this one out. Well, let's look at the actual argument and let's see if we can find the lie. Wait, first I want to look at this, though. Now, I don't know what this post is, okay? I saw someone quote tweet this and was like, this is so insane, you will never guess where this goes in a few paragraphs, and I just bookmarked it without looking at it and reading it. Hello, Dick Penderin, nice to see you. What kind of creeper file does the Mossad have on that guy? I honestly think they just brought him to Israel and showed him around and held his hand and said and paid for a nice hotel room. And he was like, "Oh, I love Israel now." And they just gave him the basic bullshit Zionist story that they give to kids when they bring them on Birthright. And he's just such an idiot that it just instantly worked on him. And he's never accepted any new information after that point. I don't even think it's like they have compromat on him. Maybe they give him a little campaign contribution, or they do, obviously. But they just gave him the basic Birthright.
You can count on me.
Story.
Have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Like a little baby.
Thank you, 34 for 34 months of Tier 1 Moss World. Thank you, Moss. I think AIPAC threatened to fund his opponent and he said okay, but I think he believes for real though. I don't think he's just like a cynical pretending to believe in something. I just think he's a moron, and he bought the child fairy tale version of events that Israel presents to literal children when they bring them on the birthright trip. Yeah, he's bought him a subscription to monthly shorts club. No, he's a white supremacist dude. Remember his incident pulling a gun on a black jogger? I mean, you got that. You got this, his support for Israel and his total lack of concern for the tens of thousands of Palestinians that have been killed over the last few months. You have that incident. It does paint a picture about what this guy's values are. The line between Zionism and hardcore racism is razor thin. I don't even know if there is a line at this point. Is there even a line? We are talking about the large racist man. That's right. It's amazing that you know exactly who that is. He's just racist and only cares about Israeli children. Israel deliberately have people at the top who are Anglos. Yeah, like fucking Netanyahu. Anyway, let's just look at the, like, I have no idea what this post says. I have no idea what this post says. Let's just look at it though, and we'll see if how we react to it. This post from Mariam. It says, "Dear Israeli and all Jewish people, I'm deeply sorry you have to go through this in the, quote, International Court of Justice these days. The United Useless has put the former Shah of Iran through the same propaganda and lies machine that Israel is going through now. The UN, after they had helped Khomeini to power in 1979, were silent about the Islamic Republic's real crimes against humanity. The fact that the Islamic Republic is in different high positions at the UN, women's rights, human rights, says it all. The fact that half of UN's resolutions are against Israel and just one was against the regime in Tehran says it all. There are great evil forces at play. Former Soviet, now Russia, together with the Islamic Republic and China, have placed their lobbyists and propaganda for decades into Western politics, Western media, and Western academia. Unregulated illegal mass immigration helped to further strengthen their cause. They already took Iran away, now they are all united against Israel, the last democratic state in the Middle East. Almost no one defended the Shah regime against these evil, anti-democratic, communist Islamist forces in 1979. So this is a pro-Shah Zionist. That's interesting. He's a pro-Iranian Shah Zionist. Amazing. But today, don't lose hope. Don't give up. They can gaslight the masses, but not all of the world. A lot of Iranians see, know, and understand. It's a tragedy of epic historical proportion and a dark deja vu for us Iranians to watch. Stay strong and stay safe. You're not completely alone in this. Some of us see through it because we lived through it. Although it may feel that way because a big portion of the world has been paid and or brainwashed to act this way against you." Wow. It would be nice to be getting paid, yeah. I mean, I'm getting paid a little, but it's just from you folks. Less coherent than anarcho-capitalism, now on shelves, democratic monarchism. That's good, yeah. Man. The Romanovs were unjustly removed and deserve justice, I suppose. We do see a lot of those unironically as well. I saw one just the other day that was like the Tsar Romanov was the last competent leader in like Eastern European history or something like that. And it's like, what did he do? Was it Alexander Romanov? What did he even do? It's like, it's literally, his family got murdered and it led to the Bolshevik Revolution. Like, what did he actually accomplish? He was literally so incompetent, he caused a revolution. Did you appreciate that they took the time to apologize to the French at the beginning of the court proceedings? Did you appreciate the gesture, or as a Quebecer, is any apology for not speaking French the same as spit in the eye? I can't say that I thought about it all that much. Competent leader. He leads one time and gets murdered by peasants. Yeah, good job, buddy. I like the leaders that don't get assassinated by peasants. Okay, so let's take a look at this case. Oh, you found it, Diego? Yeah. Thank you. Look, what goes on in your life when you come to this opinion? Tsar Nicholas II was the best ruler of the 20th century. Like, what? Amazing. Okay. Or let me see if I just have the whole clip up on YouTube. Let me take a look. Okay, let's watch this. A statement.
The sitting is open. The court meets today and will meet tomorrow under Article 74, Paragraph 3 of the Rules of Court to hear the oral observations of the parties on the request for the indication of provisional measures submitted by the Republic of South Africa in the case concerning application of the Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide in the Gaza Strip, South Africa versus Israel. The court does not include upon the
Diego, thanks for the gifted sub.
bench a judge of the nationality of either party. Accordingly, both parties avail themselves of the right under Article 31, Paragraph 3 of the statute to choose a judge ad hoc. South Africa has chosen Judge Dikgang Ernest Moseneke and Israel, Judge Aharon Barak. Article 20 of the statute provides that every member of the court shall, before taking up his duties, make a solemn declaration in open court that he will exercise his powers impartially and conscientiously. Pursuant to Article 31, Paragraph 6 of the statute, that same provision applies to judges ad hoc. Before inviting Judge Moseneke and Judge Barak to make their solemn declarations, I shall first, in accordance with custom, say a few words about their careers and qualifications. Judge Dikgang Ernest Moseneke of South Africa.
I'm going to skip ahead here
and conscientiously.
I thank Judge Moseneke And I now invite
life calculated to bring about its physical destruction in whole or in part, and D, imposing measures intended to prevent births within the
Madam President, distinguished members of the court, it is an honor and a privilege for me to appear before you today on behalf of the Republic of South Africa. I wish to express my gratitude to the court for convening this hearing on the earliest possible date to entertain South Africa's request for the indication of provisional measures in this matter. In our application, South Africa has recognized the ongoing Nakba of the Palestinian people through Israel's colonization since 1948, which has systematically and forcibly dispossessed, displaced, and fragmented the Palestinian people, deliberately denying them their internationally recognized inalienable right to self-determination.
Is it okay to mock white South African accents? I believe it is okay, yes. I think there's kind of a colonizer-colonized appropriateness level when it comes to accents. White South Africans are good to go. South African. Oi, they're doing white genocide in South Africa. Grimes, they're doing white genocide in South Africa. Yeah, you're allowed to do that. And Ropes into Eden says they rule on it, but it has no legal standing in the sense they won't be legally binding for Israel to stop. But, okay, so my understanding of this accusation is if the case for genocide has been approved, it's not so much to say that like a genocide has happened and we've determined, but it will put in place measures to stop the genocide from happening in theory. Isn't this supposed to lead to actual measures to stop the genocide from happening? This is what I think is the really interesting thing about this case. Not only am I interested to hear the arguments that are being laid out by South Africa here, very meticulously laid out, but this is a big test. This is a big test for the whole like idea of international law. What power do these institutions have? Like if this doesn't pass and there's no judgment, like Ropes into Eden is predicting, there's no consequences, we basically have to just admit that like the whole system of international law is complete bullshit, right? Like this is a real test for whether these institutions are worth anything at all. They mentioned that in the arguments as well. We can't already admit that. I mean, we can, but it's like, in theory, you would like to think that some of these international institutions still have some merit, whether you're talking about the UN or the ICJ. If it is or isn't a genocide, it will take years to decide, but now it's only about the plausibility of genocide, which there is no doubt about. And yeah, it's from what I've looked at from the case that's being made, it's pretty ironclad. Let's continue.
And their internationally recognized right of return as refugees.
You can count on me.
To their
You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Oh wow, I can't believe I have been subbed to the Not a Cult Triangle channel for a whole 3 months.
Thank you, Barry, for the 3 months of Tier 1. I appreciate it, Barry. Thank you. Please, everyone, give our friend new to Twitch, relatively, a follow. Thanks again, Barry. Abby had an interview last week with someone whose name I forget that had a great explanation of the whole process. Well, maybe if there's time, we can take a look at that. Let's continue this, though.
And villages in what is now the State of Israel. We are also particularly mindful of Israel's institutionalized regime of discriminatory laws, policies and practices designed and maintained to establish domination, subjecting the Palestinian people to apartheid on both sides of the Green Line. Decades-long impunity for widespread and systematic human rights violations has emboldened Israel in its recurrence and intensification of international crimes in Palestine. At the outset, South Africa acknowledges that the genocidal acts and omissions by the State of Israel inevitably form part of a continuum of illegal acts perpetrated against the Palestinian people since 1948. The application places Israel's genocidal acts and omissions within the broader context of Israel's 75-year apartheid, 56-year occupation, and 16-year siege imposed on the Gaza Strip, a siege which itself has been described by the director of UNRWA Affairs in Gaza as a silent killer of people. As the Committee on the Elimination of Racial Discrimination warned on December 21st, hate speech and dehumanizing discourse targeted at Palestinians is raising severe concerns regarding Israel and other states' parties' obligation to prevent crimes against humanity and genocide in the Gaza Strip. This warning has been followed by a succession of warnings, including by 37 United Nations special rapporteurs, of the failure of the international system to mobilize to prevent genocide in Gaza. Today, we are joined in court by representatives of the Palestinian state, the Palestinians who work in the fields of human rights, including residents of Gaza who were in Gaza just a few days ago. They are some of the lucky ones who managed to get out of Gaza. Their future and the future of their fellow Palestinians who are still in Gaza depend on the decision this court will make on this matter. With the leave of the court, I now call upon His Excellency, Mr. Ronald Lamola, Minister of Justice of the Republic of South Africa, to make South Africa's substantive opening remarks.
I thank the agent of South Africa for his statement, and I now invite the Minister of Justice and Correctional Services for the Republic of South Africa, His Excellency Mr. Ronald Lamola, to take the floor. You have the floor, Excellency.
Thank you, Madam President, and distinguished members of the court. It is an honor for me to stand here in front of you on behalf of the Republic of South Africa on this exceptional case.
I feel like if South Africa is calling you out, everyone should pay extra attention and they can overrule anyone on this type of decision. That should be the case. And again, it's just the amazing thing about Fetterman's comments. Oh, South Africa should just sit down. The victim of apartheid who overthrew the apartheid regime should not comment on this other apartheid regime that we're funding and keep propping up. Like the idea that that's somehow hypocritical or that they shouldn't be able to say anything about this, like, what the fuck? What is wrong with that guy? Oh, they should just sit this one out. I think they might know a little something about apartheid and what it is to be the victim of apartheid and colonialism and colonialist violence and overthrowing a colonialist regime. I think actually they're in a very good position to talk about this. And it's in fact the United States and absolute losers like John Fetterman who should sit this one out. The imperialists, the colonizers, the liars and murderers of the United States, they're the ones that should sit this one out. Perhaps maybe the best position to speak on it. Yeah, Eve Farlow says, you can't make this shit up. Yeah. This is fucking the average intelligence level of these, like, brainwashed Zionists. You just can't make this shit up. South Africa accusing Israel of apartheid. You just can't even make this shit up. Like, what the hell is wrong with you? Do people know here that this decision will take years? I mean, all of that may be true, Ropes into Eden, and believe me, I understand your skepticism about this, but I do think there's a value, though, in having this moment and just having these arguments be laid out in this case right now, meticulously, with evidence, with receipts, with all the genocidal intent proven, laid out in full view, so everyone around the world can watch these proceedings and see this case and see tomorrow what's going to be most likely a desperate, flailing, pathetic attempt to obfuscate and deny what's been going on, like we saw with the Israeli ambassador yesterday. I think it's, in terms of just people around the world, for the benefit of people around the world to just see these arguments, I think is really valuable.
Our hands across the miles to the people of Palestine. We do so in full knowledge that we are part of a humanity that is at one. These were the words of our founding president, Nelson Mandela. This is the spirit in which South Africa acceded to the Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of Crime of Genocide in 1998. This is the spirit in which we approach this court as a contracting party to the Convention. This is a commitment we owe to the people of Palestine and Israelis alike. As previously mentioned, the violence and the destruction in Palestine and Israel did not begin on the 7th of October 2023. The Palestinians have experienced systematic oppression and violence for the last 76 years. On 6 October 2023, and every day since October the 7th, 2023. In the Gaza Strip, at least since 2000.
And one interesting thing that I've heard, just in terms of people talking about this case so far as well, is that they do go to great lengths to shut down all the arguments which we know are going to be coming from Israel, and answer every single one, every single kind of claim that we know Israel's going to make is refuted basically in these opening remarks.
2004, Israel continues to exercise control over the airspace, territorial waters, land crossing, water, electricity, and civilian infrastructure, as well as over key government
functions. That's what I agree with that, Ropes
Entry and exit by air and sea to Gaza is strictly prohibited.
It puts pressure on Israel. And like you saw with Netanyahu yesterday, I don't know if anyone saw that clip from Netanyahu yesterday, but like they're obviously reacting to this. Like now you have Netanyahu kind of going on TV and flailing, being like, to be clear, we don't want to ethnically cleanse anything, and we don't want to resettle, and we don't want to occupy Gaza. Like they're going on TV to say these things because they know that the pressure is coming.
With Israel operating the only two crossing points.
It's like, let me be clear, we're totally not doing genocide.
Effective control by Israel and over the territory of Gaza. Israel is still considered by international community to be under.
And yeah, you're right, Dollar Bill. And if the ICJ proves that it doesn't have like any kind of power to enforce anything, I hope to see BRICS nations and other countries come together and start trying to build new international institutions that will have teeth. And in fact, that's something I intend to ask our friend Vijay Prashad about in a couple of weeks.
By Israel. South Africa unequivocally condemned the targeting of civilians by Hamas and other Palestinian armed groups and the taking of hostages on the 7th of October 2023. And has again expressly recorded these.
This is why multipolarity is good, because it's safety in numbers for nations who were previously at the whim of the U.S. For sure. I think the reason that like a country like South Africa has the ability to do this, like 10, 15 years ago in similar circumstances, would South Africa be putting itself out there like this and having the possibility of sanctions or isolation? Probably not. But because there's this new system of multilateralism that's been growing, and we've been observing this growing for the last few years now, they have the ability to go out there and make this case, because the ability of in the non-unipolar world, the ability of these hegemonic Western powers to force them to go along with whatever their demonic plans are has been really, really limited.
Mostly recently in its note verbal to Israel on the 21st of December 2023. That said, no armed attack on a state territory, no matter how serious, even an attack involving atrocity crimes, can provide any justification for or defense to breaches to the convention, whether as a matter of law or morality. Israel's response to the 7th of October 2023 attack has crossed this line and give rise to the breaches of the convention. Faced with such evidence and our duty to do what we can do to prevent genocide, as contained in Article 1 of the convention, the South African government initiated this case. South Africa welcomes the fact that Israel has engaged with the case in order to have the matter resolved by the court, after careful and objective consideration of the facts and submission put before it, as the parties to the convention have intended. This hearing is concerned with South Africa's request to the court for the indication of provisional measures and will necessarily have a narrow and particular focus. I invoke the words of Martin Luther King when he said, "The arch of the moral of the universe is long, always bending towards justice." South Africa's case will be presented by a team of 6 legal counsels, comprising of Dr. Adila Asim, Mr. Tembeka Ngugaitobi, Professor John Dugat, Ms. Blim Licron, Mr. Max Dupris, and Professor Vagan Low. Dr. Adila Asim, Senior Counsel, will provide an overview of the risk of genocidal acts in the perpetual vulnerability to acts of genocide. Mr. Tembeka Ngugaitobi, Senior Counsel, will examine Israel's alleged genocidal intent. Professor John Dugat, Senior Counsel, will focus on the prima facie jurisdiction. Professor Max Duplessis, Senior Counsel, will discuss the various rights currently under threat. Blinny Crowell, King's Counsel, will present the argument of agency and potential irreparable harm. And Professor Wagenlow, King's Counsel, will speak on the provisional measures. I now request, Madam President, the court to call on Dr. Hasim. I thank you.
His Excellency, Mr. Lamola, and I now invite Ms. Adila Hasim to address the court. You have the floor, madam.
Thank you. Madam President, distinguished members of the court, it is a privilege to appear on behalf of the Republic of South Africa in this case of exceptional importance. It's a case that underscores the very essence of our shared humanity as expressed in the preamble to the Genocide Convention. It's my task to address the court on the genocidal acts that have led to this urgent request for provisional measures under Article 41 of the Statute of the Court. South Africa contends that Israel has transgressed Article 2 of the Convention by committing actions that fall within the definition of genocide. The actions show a systematic pattern of conduct from which genocide can be inferred. Allow me to place these acts in context. Gaza is one of the 2 constituent territories of the occupied Palestinian territories, occupied by Israel since 1967. It is a narrow strip of approximately 365 square kilometers, as depicted in the map now displayed. Israel continues to exercise control over the space, territorial waters, land crossings, water, electricity, electromagnetic sphere, and civilian infrastructure in Gaza, as well as over key governmental functions. As the Honourable Minister has said, entry
I don't know if there's anyone in here that could gift a sub to Ropes Indeed
to Gaza is prohibited, with Israel operating the only two crossing points. Gaza, which is one of the most densely populated places in the world, is home to approximately 2.3 million Palestinians, almost half of them children. For the past 96 days, Israel has subjected Gaza to what has been described as one of the heaviest conventional bombing campaigns in the history of modern warfare. Palestinians in Gaza are being killed by Israeli weaponry and bombs from air, land, and sea. They are also at immediate risk of death by starvation.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
As a result
of
the ongoing siege by Israel, the destruction of Palestinian towns, the insufficient aid being allowed through to the Palestinian population, and the impossibility of distributing this limited aid while bombs fall. This conduct renders essentials to life unobtainable. At this provisional measures stage, as this court has made clear in the Gambia-Myanmar case, it is not necessary for the court to come to a final view on the question of whether Israel's conduct constitutes genocide. It is necessary to establish only whether at least some of the acts alleged are capable of falling within the provisions of the Convention. On analyzing the specific and ongoing genocidal acts complained of, it is clear that at least some, if not all of these acts, fall within the Convention's provisions. These acts are documented in detail in South Africa's application and confirmed by reliable, often UN sources.
Hell yeah, Nick.
It's thus unnecessary
Free Palestine.
And impossible for me to recount all of them. I will highlight only some in order to illustrate the pattern of genocidal conduct.
One of the best clips is when the UN lawyers completely debunked the idea of self-defense because an occupier, by definition, cannot use self-defense. I mean, it's so backwards when we're talking about the right of self-defense from the country that has billions of dollars in funding and an army and planes, tanks, ships, and it's defending itself against people that do not have an army and they don't have anything. They have rockets that they could make in their garage out of like salvaged pipes or whatever they happen to be able to smuggle in. And you have one of the most advanced armies in the world defending itself against people that do not have anything, any armies, any weapons comparable. Like just that's been normalized, I think, is so insane. You know? And that people say this without a moment of hesitation or a moment of like reflection. This right to defend themselves. It's insanity.
The UN statistics that are relied upon are up to date as of 9 January 2024. In South Africa's oral submissions, we will illustrate the facts that we rely on with limited use of audiovisual material. Madam President, we do so with restraint and only where necessary, and always with respect to the Palestinian people. Against this background, I move now to demonstrate, in turn, how Israel's conduct violates Articles 2A, 2B, 2C, and 2D of the Convention. The first first genocidal act committed by Israel is the mass killing of Palestinians in Gaza, in violation of Article 2A of the Genocide Convention. As the UN Secretary General explained 5 weeks ago, the level of Israel's killing is so extensive that nowhere is safe in Gaza. As I stand before you today, 23,210 Palestinians have been killed by Israeli forces during the sustained attacks over the last 3 months.
This is one of the most depraved things we've ever seen in our lives.
70% of whom are believed to be women and children. Some 7,000 Palestinians
and also
are still
Palestinian men don't deserve to be bombed and murdered either.
Under the rubble. Palestinians in Gaza are subjected to relentless bombing wherever they go. They are killed in their homes, in places where they seek shelter, in hospitals, in schools, in mosques.
And let's contrast all of this information we're getting right now from this case with the hard-hitting interview we heard on CTV News last night, you know, when we watched that yesterday, with the Israeli ambassador, who's able to just totally lie with complete impunity without being challenged whatsoever in this hard-hitting interview. You know, all the spin and all the bullshit about the war against Hamas and how careful they are, and they're trying to free people. We're actually trying to free people from Hamas. We're trying to increase their security. Like, remember all the bullshit lies that he was not called out on in any way, as we see this, like, completely damning evidence for their utterly deranged and murderous regime.
In churches, and as they try to find food and water for their families. They have been killed if they failed to evacuate. In the places to which they have fled, and even while they attempted to flee along Israeli-declared safe routes. The level of killing is so extensive.
Yeah, Nick Narcotic. I mean, it's one thing we've been talking about. This is like the violence of colonialism, the violence of settler colonialism, but it's being done with modern weaponry, and it's being documented with modern technology. That's the big difference. You know, we're able to. It's so ruthlessly brutal and efficient using the modern technology and weaponry, and we're also able to get just a front row seat to how violent and depraved it is. Which is what makes it so unique.
First 3 weeks alone, following 7 October, Israel deployed 6,000 bombs per week. At least 200 times, it has deployed 2,000-pound bombs in southern areas of Palestine designated as safe. These bombs have also decimated the north, including refugee camps. 2,000-pound bombs are some of the biggest and most destructive bombs available. They are dropped by lethal fighter jets that are used to strike targets on the ground by one of the world's most resourced armies. Israel has killed an unparalleled and unprecedented number of civilians, with the full knowledge of how many civilian lives each bomb will take. More than 1,800 families, Palestinian families in Gaza, have lost multiple family members, and hundreds of multi-generational families
Raven, that's totally insane.
With no remaining survivors.
2 times more tonnage of bombs than the nukes dropped on Japan in World War II.
Siblings,
and you look at Gaza, and it looks like a nuke's gone off there.
Often all killed together. This killing is nothing short of destruction of Palestinian life. It is inflicted deliberately. No one is spared, not even newborn babies. The scale of Palestinian child killings in Gaza is such that UN chiefs have described it as a graveyard for children. The devastation, we submit, is intended to and has laid waste to Gaza beyond any acceptable, legal, let alone humane justification.
Children are the main targets. It's like the main enemy of the IDF.
Identified in South Africa's application is Israel's infliction of serious bodily or mental harm to Palestinians in Gaza in violation of Article 2B of the Genocide Convention. Israel's attacks have left close to 60,000 Palestinians wounded and maimed. Again, the majority of them women and children. This in circumstances where the healthcare system has all but collapsed. I'll return to this later in my speech. Large numbers of Palestinian civilians, including children, are arrested, blindfolded, forced to undress, and loaded onto trucks taken to unknown locations. The suffering of the Palestinian people, physical and mental, is undeniable. Turning to the third genocidal act under Article 2C.
And approximately half of those bombs that were dropped were dumb, unguided bombs, so it's been a carpet bombing akin to what was done in Dresden in World War II. Yet they intentionally avoid conflicts with armed Palestinian brigades and instead target and engage groups of civilians. It's truly just so depraved. And you hear there's stories about, like, you know, the Qassam brigades, like, using children's voices to, like, lure in IDF people into traps and stuff. Because they instinctively go after the children's voices. Like, what the fuck? Yeah, Klobokov, when you say if the IOF fought adults instead of kids, they'd lose their battles, which they're still doing. Like, they still are losing when they try to actually engage with anyone that isn't a defenseless child. And mezzanine as well, this is a good point. Even if they were precision bombs, they still take out entire residential blocks at once. Yeah, like you can't have a 2,000-pound precision bomb. Yeah, Rebel Mitch, I'm not making that up. I'm not making that up. Insane.
Israel has deliberately imposed conditions on Gaza that cannot sustain life and are calculated to bring about its physical destruction. Israel achieves this in at least 4 ways. First, by displacement. Israel has forced the displacement of about 85% of Palestinians in Gaza. There is nowhere safe for them to flee to. Those who cannot leave or refuse to be displaced have either been killed or at extreme risk of being killed in their homes. Many Palestinians have been displaced multiple times as families are forced to move repeatedly in search of safety. Israel's first evacuation order on 13 October required the evacuation of over 1 million people.
Israel showed they actually do know how to precision strike just one floor in an apartment building because they just did because they did so for the families of journalists and in the assassination in Lebanon the other day.
Even newborn babies in intensive care. The order required them to evacuate the north to the south within 24 hours. The order itself was genocidal. It required immediate movement, taking only what could be carried, while no humanitarian assistance was permitted, and fuel, water, and food, and other necessities of life had deliberately been cut off. It was clearly calculated to bring about the destruction of the population. For many Palestinians, the forced evacuation from their homes is inevitably permanent. Israel has now damaged or destroyed an estimated 355,000 Palestinian homes, leaving at least 500,000 Palestinians with no home to return to. The Special Rapporteur on the Human Rights of Internally Displaced Persons explains that houses and infrastructure, quote, have been razed to the ground, frustrating any realistic prospects for displaced Gazans to return home, repeating a long history of mass forced displacement of Palestinians by Israel. There is no indication at all that Israel accepts responsibility for rebuilding what it has destroyed. Instead, the destruction is celebrated by the Israeli army. Soldiers film themselves joyfully detonating entire apartment blocks and town squares, erecting the Israeli flag over the wreckage.
It's amazing. I saw someone speculating on this on Twitter as well, and it's like, it's incredible that they haven't just enacted like a blanket ban of these fucking genocidal IDF people posting TikToks. And like I was saying yesterday, it speaks to how totally comfortable they are with what they're doing and how totally immune from consequences they feel that they are. Like, they've been saying the words. They've been saying what they're doing. They've been saying what their intentions were in no uncertain terms. They're documenting it themselves. It's not even the Palestinians that are doing it. They're documenting it themselves and laughing about it and doing like floss dancing while they're doing it. Like, they're proud of it. That's how secure they are, how secure they feel, and how confident that they are that there will never be any consequences for anything that they're doing. Why, you might ask? Because part of Israel's project is complete humiliation of Palestinians as a specific goal to also demoralize. Yeah, and just in celebrating this kind of ethnic cleansing is just part of their culture. I saw a video of an IDF soldier bragging about no more education in Gaza, you won't be engineers anymore. It's sick. Yeah, and just seeing like the universities where people were getting their degrees and totally bombed out. You were talking about cultural genocide as well, and not only are you bombing universities and libraries, destroying these like artifacts and documents, you're also killing, poets, authors, writers like Rafat, journalists, photographers, painters, singers. There's one video later on in this where IDF soldiers are celebrating because they get to slaughter civilians like they're fighting Amalek. Yeah, and that's something that Netanyahu himself, it's coming all the way from the top. Netanyahu himself has been kind of talking about this and encouraging this.
Seeking to re-establish Israeli settlements on the rubble of Palestinian homes, and thus extinguishing the very basis of Palestinian life.
Like everyone around the
Gaza.
world sees this image and knows what the fuck's going on. It's amazing that they'd still try to
Together
deny
with the
it.
forced displacement, Israel's conduct has been deliberately calculated to cause widespread hunger, dehydration, and starvation. Israel's campaign has pushed Gazans to the brink of famine. An unprecedented 93% of the population in Gaza is facing crisis levels of hunger. Of all the people in the world currently suffering catastrophic hunger, more than 80% are in Gaza. The situation is such that the experts are now predicting that more Palestinians in Gaza may die from starvation and disease than airstrikes. And yet Israel continues to impede the effective delivery of humanitarian assistance to Palestinians, not only refusing to allow sufficient aid in, but removing the ability to distribute it through constant bombardment and obstruction. Just 3 days ago, on 8 January, a planned mission by UN agencies to deliver urgent medical supplies and vital fuel to a hospital and medical supply center was denied by Israeli authorities. This marked the 5th denial of a mission to the center since 26 December. Leaving 5 hospitals in northern Gaza without access to life-saving medical supplies and equipment. Aid trucks that are allowed in are seized upon by the hungry. What is provided is simply not enough. Madam President, members of the court, this is an image of an aid truck arriving in Gaza. Third, Israel has deliberately inflicted conditions in which Palestinians in Gaza are denied adequate shelter, clothes, or sanitation. For weeks, there have been acute shortages of clothes, bedding, blankets, and critical non-food items. Clean water is all but gone, leaving far below the amount required to safely drink, clean, and cook. Accordingly, the WHO has stated that Gaza is experiencing soaring rates of infectious disease outbreaks. Cases of diarrhea in children under 5 years
of age, fewer doctors and hospitals to treat people.
2,000%.
Oh, sorry, did I say hospitals? I meant Hamas control centers.
When combined and left untreated, malnutrition and disease create a deadly cycle.
Which is what the U.S. government have contributed to promoting this narrative, including Biden himself.
Under Article 2B is Israel's military assault on Gaza's healthcare system, which renders life unsustainable. Even by 7 December, the UN Special Rapporteur on the right to health noted that the healthcare infrastructure in the Gaza Strip has been completely obliterated. Those wounded by Israel in Gaza are being deprived of life-saving medical care. Gaza's healthcare system, already crippled by years of blockade and prior attacks by Israel, is unable to cope with the sheer scale of the injuries. Finally, the UN Special Rapporteur on Violence Against Women and Girls has pointed to acts committed by Israel that would fall under the fourth category.
Yeah, absolutely, Diego. Fewer journalists to report on the conditions and fewer UN people to sound the alert. Which is amazing because the UN is still so reticent to accuse them of anything.
The following.
Even when they're killing their own UN workers.
Inflicted by Israel on Palestinian women, newborn babies, infants, and children could be qualified as acts of genocide under Article 2 of the Genocide Convention, including imposing measures intended to prevent births within a group. Israel is blocking the delivery of life-saving aid, including essential medical kits for delivering babies, in circumstances where an estimated 180 women are giving birth in Gaza each day. Of these 180 women, the WHO warns that 15% are likely to experience
the communist UN regime bill, that's
complications and need additional medical care. That care is simply not available. In sum, Madam President, all of these acts, individually and collectively, form a calculated pattern of conduct by Israel, indicating a genocidal intent. This intent is evident from Israel's conduct in specially targeting Palestinians living in Gaza, using weaponry that causes large-scale homicidal destruction,
or white phosphorus, which is just like torture.
Targeted sniping of civilians, designating safe zones for Palestinians to seek refuge, and then bombing these, depriving Palestinians in Gaza of basic needs: food, water, healthcare, fuel, sanitation, and communications, destroying social infrastructure, homes, schools, mosques, churches, hospitals.
I'm mad thinking about it already, crowd babes.
Killing, seriously injuring, and leaving large numbers of children orphaned. Genocides are never declared in advance. But this court has the benefit of the past 13 weeks of evidence that shows incontrovertibly a pattern of conduct and related intention that justifies a plausible claim of genocidal acts. In the Gambia-Myanmar case, this court did not hesitate to impose provisional measures in relation to allegations that Myanmar was committing genocidal acts against the Rohingya within the Rakhine state. The facts before the court today are sadly even more stark, and like the Gambia-Myanmar case, deserve and demand this court's intervention. Every day, there is mounting irreparable loss of life, property, dignity, and humanity for the Palestinian people. Our news feeds show graphic images of suffering that has become unbearable to watch. Nothing will stop the suffering except an order from this court. Without an indication of provisional measures, the atrocities will continue, with the Israeli Defense Force indicating that it intends pursuing this course of action for at least a year.
I mean, it's the amazing thing. Ropes and Dean says, excuse me, optics liberals are in shambles right now because every person who presented this case was unbelievably clear and articulate. It's even more insulting. Not only Fetterman's comments, oh, they should just sit this one out, whatever he said, but like people like Anthony Blinken and John Kirby being like, it's totally baseless, without any basis in fact, without merit, like just totally dismissing it when it's like so meticulously researched and carefully argued and articulately presented. And they just hand wave it away. Oh, no, it's completely without basis in fact. It's completely meritless. Like it's pathetic. Yeah, just sit this one out.
In the words of the UN Under-Secretary General on 5 January 2024,
Yeah, they're probably talking about the optics libs are talking about the debate.
You think getting aid into Gaza is easy? Think again. 3 layers of inspections before trucks can even enter. Confusion and long queues. A growing list of rejected items. A crossing point meant for pedestrians, not trucks. Another crossing point where trucks have been blocked by desperate, hungry communities. A destroyed commercial
that's
sector.
the one I'm really interested in seeing.
Constant bombardments.
Their own words.
Poor communications. Damaged roads.
Don't take our word for
Convoys
it.
shot at. Delays at checkpoints.
They've not been shy about talking about any of this.
Exhausted population crammed into a smaller and smaller sliver of land. Shelters which have long exceeded their full capacity. Aid workers themselves displaced, killed. This is an impossible situation for the people of Gaza and for those trying to help them. The fighting must stop. Close quote. Madam President, members of the court.
I'll be right back, folks.
That concludes my section on the genocidal conduct of Israel. I thank you for your patient attention, and I ask that you call Advocate Nukatobi to the podium to address the court on genocidal intent.
I thank Ms. Hassim, and I now invite Mr. Tembeke Nukatobi to address the court. You have the floor, sir.
Madam President and distinguished members of the court, it is a privilege to appear before the court on behalf of South Africa. I will address Israel's genocidal intent. At this stage, the court is not required to determine that the only inference to be drawn from the available evidence is genocidal to order provisional measures, as that is to decide the merits. Rather, the assessment of the existence of an intent to destroy could be made by the court only at the stage of the examination of the merits. That some of the alleged acts may also amount to atrocities other than genocide does not exclude the finding of plausible acts of genocide. Madam President, South Africa is not alone in drawing attention to Israel's genocidal rhetoric against Palestinians in Gaza. 15 United Nations special rapporteurs.
Yeah, Kiki, it's just anyone that would say that at this point is just being not serious.
Have warned that what is happening in Gaza.
Well, it's anti-Semitic to be against this.
In the making.
No one is buying this anymore. Nobody.
The Palestinian people and our
this shit doesn't work anymore.
Israel has a genocidal intent against the Palestinians in Gaza. That is evident from the way in which Israel's military attack is being conducted, which has been described by Ms. Hassim as C. It is systematic in its character and form. The mass displacement of the population of Gaza, headed into areas where they continue to be killed, and the deliberate creation of conditions that, quote, lead to a slow death, unquote. There is also the clear pattern of conduct. The targeting of family homes and civilian infrastructure, laying waste to vast areas of Gaza, and the bombing, shelling, and sniping of men, women, and children where they stand, the destruction of the health infrastructure.
Will Israel's representatives show up with the yellow Star of David? I saw someone speculating that they're going to show up in like the boy in the striped pajamas, like concentration camp outfit. They might as well at this point.
And lack of access to humanitarian assistance. So much so that as we stand today, 1% of the Palestinian population in Gaza has been systematically decimated. And 1 in 4 Gazans have been injured since 7 October. These two elements alone are capable of evidencing Israel's genocidal intent in relation to the whole or part of the Palestinian population in Gaza. However, third, there is an extraordinary feature in this case, that Israel's political leaders, military commanders, and persons holding official positions have systematically and in explicit terms declared their genocidal intent. And these statements are then repeated by soldiers on the ground in Gaza as they engage in the destruction of Palestinians and the physical infrastructure of Gaza. We show this third element next. Israel's special genocidal intent is rooted in the belief that, in fact, the enemy is not just the military wing of Hamas, or indeed Hamas generally, but is embedded in the fabric of Palestinian life in Gaza. On 7 October, in a televised address, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu declared war on Gaza, and I quote, "Israel had started clearing out the communities that have been infiltrated by terrorists." And he warned of an unprecedented price to be paid by the enemy. There are more than 2.3 million Palestinians in Gaza. Israel is the occupying power in control of Gaza. It controls entry, exit, and the internal movements of inside Gaza. And Prime Minister, Mr. Netanyahu exercises overall command over the Israeli Defense Force and, in turn, the Palestinians in Gaza. Prime Minister Netanyahu, in his address to the Israeli forces on 28 October 2023, preparing for the invasion of Gaza, urged the soldiers to remember what Amalek has done to you. This refers to the biblical command by God to Saul for the retaliatory destruction of an entire group of people known as the Amalekites, put to death men and women, children and infants, cattle and sheep, camels and donkeys. The genocidal invocation to Amalek was anything but idle. It was repeated by Mr. Netanyahu in a letter to the Israeli Armed Forces on 3 November 2023. Madam President, let the Prime Minister's words speak for themselves.
Has done to you, says our Holy Bible, and we do remember, and we are fighting our brave troops and combatants who are now in Gaza or around Gaza. And
This is a situation you're talking about?
The Deputy Speaker of the Knesset, Israel's parliament, has called for the erasure of the Gaza Strip from the face of the earth. The Defense Force agrees. On 9 October, the Defense Minister, Yoav Gallant, gave a situation update to the army, where he said that as Israel was imposing a complete siege on Gaza, there would be no electricity, no food, no water, no fuel. Everything would be killed because Israel is fighting human animals. Speaking to troops on the Gaza border, he instructed them that he has released all the restraints and that Gaza won't return to what it was before. We will eliminate everything. We will reach all places. Eliminate everything. Reach all places without any restraints. The theme of destruction of human animals was reiterated by an Israeli army coordinator of government activities in the territories on 9 October 2023, who, in an address to Hamas and the residents of Gaza, stated that Hamas has become ISIS and that the citizens of Gaza are celebrating instead of being horrified.
And as we know, interestingly, this whole Hamas-ISIS thing, as we know, ISIS now came out just the other day, a representative from ISIS, and condemned Hamas. And there's a number of Israel supporters and Zionists being like, even ISIS has condemned Hamas. That's kind of interesting, isn't it? Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? I find that so interesting. There's all videos of people being like, ISIS is like, wow, even these like Western college campuses are worse than ISIS at this point. And it's like, do you hear yourself? It's very interesting. It's very, very interesting. ISIS is on our side. We're the good guys. Yeah, that's what, like, I'm just thinking about all the fucking morons that were yelling at me the other day when I dared to suggest that there might be some kind of link between Israeli intelligence and ISIS. And now 1 week later, you have all these Zionists being like, ISIS is not so bad. Look at that. Jesus.
Animals are dealt with accordingly. Israel has imposed a total blockade on Gaza, No electricity, no water, just damage. You wanted hell, you will get hell. The language of systematic dehumanization is evident here. Human animals, both Hamas and civilians, are condemned. Within the Israeli cabinet, this is also a widely held view. The Minister of Energy and Infrastructure, Israel Katz, called for the denial of water and fuel, as this is what will happen to a people of children killers and slaughterers. This admits of no ambiguity. It means to create conditions of death of the Palestinian people in Gaza. To die a slow death because of starvation and dehydration, or to die quickly because of a bomb attack or snipers, but to die nevertheless. In fact, Heritage Minister Amichai Eliyahu said that Israel must find ways for Gazans that are more painful than death. It is no answer to say that neither are in command of the army. They are ministers in the Israeli government. They vote in the Knesset and are in a position to shape state policy. The intent to destroy Gaza has been nurtured at the highest levels of state, as President Isaac Herzog has joined the ranks of those signing bombs destined for Gaza. Having previously noted that the entire population in Gaza is responsible and that this rhetoric about civilians not aware, not involved is absolutely not true, we will fight until we break their backbone. Later attempts by the President and others to neutralize this speech have not altered the sting of his words, which was to tar all Palestinians as responsible for the actions of Hamas. Nor, as I will show below, has it affected how state policy is understood within government. The Minister of National Security repeated the President's statements that Hamas and civilians are responsible in equal measure. On 10 November 2023, in a televised interview, he stated that when we say that Hamas should be destroyed, it also means those who celebrate, those who support, and those who hand out candy. They are all terrorists, and they should also be destroyed. These are orders to destroy.
That's tomorrow, crowd babes.
To maim what cannot be destroyed. These statements are not open to neutral interpretations or after-the-fact rationalizations and reinterpretations by Israel. The statements were made by persons in command of the state. They communicated state policy. It is simple. If the statements were not intended, they would not have been made. The genocidal intent behind these statements is not ambiguous to the Israeli soldiers on the ground. Indeed, it is directing their actions and objectives. On 7 December 2023, Israeli soldiers proved that they understood the Prime Minister's message to remember what the Amalek has done to you as genocidal. They were recorded by journalists dancing and singing. We know our motto, there are no uninvolved, that they obey one commandment, to wipe off the seed of Amalek. The Prime Minister's invocation of Amalek is being used by soldiers to justify the killing of civilians, including children. These are the soldiers repeating the inciting words of their Prime Minister.
To wipe off the seed of Amalek. There are no uninvolved civilians in the song.
Israeli soldiers in Gaza were filmed dancing, chanting, and singing in November. May their village burn, may Gaza be erased. There is now a trend among the soldiers to film themselves committing atrocities against civilians in Gaza in a form of snuff video. One recorded himself detonating over 50 houses in Shujaiya. Other soldiers were recorded singing, "We will destroy all of Khan Yunis and this house. We will blow it up for you and for everything you do for us." These are the soldiers putting into effect their command.
Idiots.
שכונת סג'איה ז"ל, נחל עוז, בעזרת השם יהיה לכם.
חטיבה 828, אומרת תהיה שלום.
בתים. 30 בתים. גדוד 749.
כאן מתחיל הניצחון. עם ישראל חי.
The commanders of the army are also of the same mind. Israeli army commander Yair Ben David has stated that the army had done in Beit Hanon and did there as Shimon and Levi did in Nablus, and that the entire Gaza should resemble Beit Hanon. Israeli soldier Yeshai Shalev published a video against the backdrop of the ruins of what was the site of Al-Azhar University with the caption, "Once upon a time, there was a university in Gaza, and in practice, a school for murderers and human animals." Soldiers obviously believe that this language and their actions are acceptable because the destruction of Palestinian life in Gaza is articulated state policy. Senior political and military officials encouraged without censure the 95-year-old Israeli army reservist Ezra Yachin, a veteran of the Deir Yassin massacre against the Palestinians in 1948, to speak to the soldiers ahead of the ground invasion in Gaza. In his tour, he echoed the same sentiment while being driven around in an officially Israeli army vehicle dressed.
Well, Timmy, I mean, this is what I've been saying. It speaks to how confident they are that there's never going to be any consequences. Like, it speaks to how totally secure they are that no one will ever stop them from doing what they're doing because they have the United States on their side, funding and protecting them.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Close now.
Sean, thanks for 35 months tier 1, Sean. Thank you. We all know what's coming next.
In Israeli army fatigue.
What's coming?
Be triumphant and finish them off. And don't leave anyone behind. Erase the memory of them. Erase them, their families, mothers, and children. These animals can no longer live. If you have an Arab neighbor, don't wait. Go to his home and shoot him. We want to invade, not like before. We want to enter and destroy what's in front of us, and destroy houses, then destroy the one after it. With all of our forces, complete destruction, enter and destroy. As you can see, we will witness things we've never dreamed of. Let them drop bombs on them and erase them. As recently as 7 January 2024, a video of a soldier was posted online where he boasts that the army had destroyed the entire village of Hibat Azar. For 2 weeks, he said, they had worked hard to bomb the village and executed their mandate. Any suggestion that senior politicians did not mean what they said, much less that the meaning was not understood by soldiers in Gaza, would be without any merit. The scale of destruction in Gaza, the mass targeting of family homes and civilians, the war being a war on children, all make clear that genocidal intent is both understood and is being put into practice. The articulated intent is the destruction of Palestinian life in all its manifestations. The genocidal rhetoric is also commonplace within the Israeli Knesset. Members of the Knesset have repeatedly called for Gaza to be wiped out, flattened, erased, and crushed on all its inhabitants. They have deplored anyone feeling sorry for the uninvolved Gazans, asserting repeatedly that there are no uninvolved, that there are no innocents in Gaza, that the killers of the women and children should not be separated from the citizens of Gaza, and that the children of Gaza have brought this upon themselves, and that there should be one sentence for everyone there, death. Finally, the lawmakers have called for mercilessly bombing from the air, with some advocating for the use of nuclear doomsday weapons, and a Nakba that will overshadow the Nakba of 48. The Prime Minister's genocidal speech has gained ground among some elements of civil society. A famous singer has repeated Mr. Netanyahu's Amalek reference, stating that Gaza must be wiped out and be destroyed with every Amalek seed. We simply must destroy all of Gaza and exterminate everyone who is there. Another has called to erase Gaza, not leave a single person there. Journalists and commentators have announced that the woman is an enemy, the baby is an enemy, the pregnant woman is an enemy. that it is necessary to turn the Strip into a slaughterhouse, to demolish every house our soldiers come across, exterminate everyone. The intentional failure of the government of Israel to condemn, prevent, and punish such genocidal incitement constitutes in itself a grave violation of the Genocide Convention. We should recall, Madam President, that in Article 1 of the Convention, Israel confirmed that genocide, whether committed in time of peace or in time of war, is a crime under international law, and it undertook to prevent and to punish it as such. This failure to prevent, condemn, and punish such speech by the government has served to normalize genocidal rhetoric and extreme danger for Palestinians within Israeli society. As MK Moshe Sada from the Likud party has said, the government's own attorneys share his views that Palestinians in Gaza must be destroyed. I quote, "You go anywhere and they tell you to destroy them. In the kibbutz, they tell you to destroy them. My friends at the state attorney's office who fought with me on political issues in debate said to me..."
Yeah, Sean, I think it's really valuable that people around the world are watching this.
Destroy all Gazans. Destroy all Gazans. Israel is aware of its destruction of Palestinian life and infrastructure. Despite this knowledge, it has maintained and indeed intensified its military activity in Gaza. As to full awareness,
okay, and we talk about this, the Hague Invasion Act as well, and we should talk about it. The Hague Invasion Act, as the act allows the president to order U.S. military action, such as the invasion of the Netherlands, where the Hague is located, to protect American officials and military personnel from prosecution or rescue them from custody. It's the kind of thing that, like, I know that law exists or that act exists. I would like to see them try to do that, though. I think putting that into practice is a whole separate thing, if it ever came down to that, you know? And if any American officials or military people were implicated in this kind of thing and faced actual consequences in these international criminal institutions. Is America really going to invade the Netherlands? Like, why don't you go ahead and do that? Like, would that lead? Like, what would that spark? Would people around the world just sit back and just allow that to happen? Maybe in 2001 that might have been a possibility. I don't know if 2024 it would be a possibility if it ever came to that. You know, I really don't. It's not. This is the whole thing. It's not the unipolar world anymore. America can't just go and arbitrarily invade the Netherlands if it like feels like it. There would be countries, multiple countries in the world that would not tolerate that and just allow that to happen. The more likely thing is them threatening and sanctioning judges and their families. I could 100% see the U.S. going full World War III over it. And yes, Nick, because like they're a lunatic regime in the United States. So yes, but also look how stretched thin the U.S. empire is right now. Like they can't even fucking arm Ukraine anymore. They got their asses kicked in Ukraine with their proxy army there. They're having a hard time getting funding and getting all the supplies they need to get to Israel. Like they can't even do that. They were hoping to pivot away from all this shit so they could focus on Taiwan, and they can't even do that now. It is a paper tiger, you know? It is. Like they can't even do their basic objectives right now. We think they could start even more wars now? Rishi Sunak calling an emergency cabinet meeting. Sky News is saying it's about military strikes against Yemen. God damn. It really does. This constant feeling like we're on the verge of World War III is just so pervasive. What is the next paper tiger more accurate than ever? For sure. Absolutely. What is the next domino to fall? That's a good point. Also, on top of it, the U.S. military is grossly understaffed because no one wants to die for the stupid fucking empire. It's like you look at the military budget and people like delude themselves into thinking, look at our military budget, we'll never be defeated. Where is that budget going, though? It's not going to soldiers. It's not even going to weaponry like that works. It's getting put into these money pits where they're building planes that don't fly when it's cloudy out and spending trillions of dollars on it. It's all the money that you're spending on the military. It's going into this fucking total scam with these military defense contractors. That's all. You're not actually really even getting anything for that money. Except you're building extensions on houses of like the Raytheon CEO or whoever else. Yeah, just laundering money for the ruling class. Like, people have really deluded themselves, though, to think that, like, look at all the money we spend on the military. We're just undefeatable. Like, think about the money they're spending on the military and what that's actually purchasing. Again, they don't even have the arms to defend Ukraine like they said they could. They said to Ukraine, I'm sure they gave them the promise to keep pushing up against those red lines that Russia had very clearly articulated. And they said, don't worry, if Russia invades, we're going to have your back. We're going to give you everything you need to defeat them. And they can't even do that. So as much as I am concerned about the U.S. flailing and as the empire slowly collapses, flailing and striking out violently and leading to World War III, but it's like they can't even meet their own objectives right now. The idea that the U.S. in any way would be ready to fight some kind of full-scale war, I don't think that has much actual weight to it, this idea. I think it's purely an illusion, all that power. A drowning man can take you under, and that's a good point, David. It doesn't mean they can't do any damage, to be clear. I'm not saying they can't do any damage at all. That's not what I'm saying. But I also don't think they actually have the ability to wage like a full-scale war in the ways that some like American chauvinists kind of think they do. I don't think anyone would dare to invade the U.S. mainland. Maybe one day, like we saw in that new Red Dawn movie with North Korea. That inspiring moment of optimism when DPRK invades any town USA. But the rest of the world is certainly stressing all of the colonial outposts, and the U.S. is clearly incapable of managing its empire effectively anymore. Yeah. And everyone around the world senses that as well. There isn't enough unification within the U.S. for that. Enough people are done with U.S. imperialism. Yeah, I mean, even some of this growing right-wing sect. There's always room to wage a new war, but effectively, never. Yeah.
After 7 October, NGOs and the United Nations warned of an unprecedented humanitarian crisis in Gaza. The UN stated that actors must allow humanitarian teams and goods to immediately and safely reach the hundreds of thousands of people in need. So right from the beginning, Israel knew that it was depriving water, food, electricity, and essentials for survival. It said so. Everything is closed. It has known that it was depriving Palestinians of healthcare and treatment.
Yeah, and Relic, did you see that $1 billion worth of weapons for Ukraine were not properly tracked with concerns, quote, they could be stolen or smuggled. I don't think he meant snuggled. Smuggled, according to a Pentagon report. And again, exactly like Syria, wait till now, there's offshoot terrorist groups coming out of Ukraine that are a direct result of these CIA-trained and armed militia groups in Ukraine. And then they're going to start carrying out terrorist attacks there and elsewhere. And people like me are going to be like, I wonder what the link is between the CIA and the U.S. government and these extremist groups coming out of Ukraine. And people are going to say, oh, that's crazy talk. That's conspiracy theory stuff. But it's literally the exact same fucking situation. Just wait until these heavily armed, highly trained and battle-tested Ukrainian militia groups start engaging in that kind of activity, which we know they've been trained to do. We looked at that piece from Yahoo News prior to the invasion where we talked about these CIA trained militias being trained in like stay behind tactics. We know what the CIA training manual teaches these insurgent groups. It's been documented. It's been reported. Well, we're going to start seeing all of that shit happening behind lines in Ukraine and are probably around Western Europe as well. I think the Guaido-Venezuela fiasco proved that the U.S. lost its ability to control any foreign nation at will. They'd organized a coup and take over in a month if it was the 70s, and now they're like, oh, look at this beautiful boy, he's the real leader, and everyone's like, yeah, buddy, sure. Yeah, I think Syria was the first step, the first like crack in the facade, when they tried to do to Syria what they did to Libya, and just weren't able to. And you had countries around the world, such as Russia, saying like, we're not just going to let you do this. And yeah, it's just been a non-stop string of failures. All the old tricks, all the old color revolution tricks, and all the other different tools that they have to destabilize and overthrow these countries, sanctions and propaganda and all this stuff. None of this shit is working anymore.
For injury in the middle of an unprecedented bombardment of food and water and of other essentials for survival. This prompted the World Health Organization to say, we are on our knees asking for sustained, scaled-up, protected humanitarian operations, appealing to all those in a situation to make a decision or influence decision makers to give us the humanitarian space to address this human catastrophe. Despite this knowledge, Israel continues to target infrastructure essential for survival: water and sanitation infrastructure, solar panels, bakeries, mills, crops. It bombs hospitals, decimating the healthcare system. It targets aid workers and the infrastructure of the United Nations. It is because of the policy of Israel that Gaza has become a place of death and despair. In conclusion, Madam President, many propagators of grave atrocities have protested that they were misunderstood, that they did not mean what they said, and that their own words were taken out of context. What state would admit to a genocidal intent? Yet, the distinctive feature of this case has not been the silence as such, but the reiteration and repetition of genocidal speech throughout every sphere of state in Israel. We remind the court of the identity and authority of the genocidal inciters: the Prime Minister, the President, the Minister of Defense, the Minister of National Security, the Minister of Energy and Infrastructure, members of the Knesset, senior army officials, and foot soldiers. Genocidal utterances are therefore not out in the fringes. They are embodied in state policy. The intent to destroy is plainly understood by soldiers on the ground. It is also fully understood by some within the Israeli society, with the government facing criticism for allowing in any aid to Gaza on the basis that it is recanting on its promise to starve Palestinians. Any suggestion that Israeli officials did not mean what they said, or were not fully understood by soldiers and civilians alike to mean what they said, should be rejected by this court. The evidence of genocidal intent is not only chilling, it is also overwhelming and incontrovertible.
I'm sorry, if you look at all these comments, and your response is like, it's totally without merit. South Africa should sit this out. You're just racist. Like, that's all. That's literally all it is. Like, if you can look at all of this, like, again, very carefully curated and explicitly argued case, and just be like, oh, it's totally without merit. Like, you're just racist. That's all.
Madam President, it is now my honor to request you to call Mr. John Dugard on the subject of jurisdiction.
I thank Mr. Ngukai-Toby, and I now invite Professor
You just
John
sit down, black people. Seriously. Scumbag.
Madam President, distinguished members of the Court, it is a great privilege to appear before you today on behalf of the Republic of South Africa. In my speech, I will address the question of jurisdiction. The people of South Africa and of Israel both have a history of suffering. Both states have become parties to the Genocide Convention in the determination to end suffering. In this spirit, neither has attached a reservation to Article 9 of the Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide. It is in terms of this convention dedicated to saving humanity that South Africa brings this dispute before the court. The prohibition on genocide is a peremptory norm. Obligations under the Genocide Convention are erga omnes, obligations owed to the international community as a whole. States parties to this convention are obliged not only to desist from genocidal acts, but also to prevent them. That the obligation of state parties to prevent acts of genocide is the foundation of the Convention is clear from its placement in Article 1 of the Convention. Article 9 of the Genocide Convention makes it clear that state parties are guardians of the Genocide Convention. Unlike other treaties designed to protect human rights, it does not oblige states to pursue negotiations as a prelude to approaching this court. It does not treat the ending of genocidal acts as a bilateral affair between states. Instead, it envisages a situation in which a state, acting on behalf of the international community as a whole, seizes the jurisdiction.
South Africa got a lawyer older than Israel to speak just to drive their point home.
South Africa has a long history of close relations with Israel. For this reason, it did not bring the dispute immediately.
I'm in the Jimmy Dore show thumbnail. There we go.
It watched with horror.
I'm moving up in the world.
As Israel responded to the terrible atrocities committed against its people on 7 of October, with an attack on Gaza that resulted in the indiscriminate killing of innocent Palestinian civilians, most of whom were women and children.
Many are calling it the year of Rob, Sean. TRRS rising.
Repeatedly voiced its concerns in the Security Council and in public statements that Israel's actions had become genocidal. On 10 November, in a formal diplomatic démarche, it informed Israel that while it condemned the actions of Hamas, it wanted the International Criminal Court to investigate the leadership of Israel for international crimes, including genocide. As the court will know, the definition of genocide in the Rome Statute repeats that of the Genocide Convention. On 17 October, South Africa referred Israel's commission of the crime of genocide to the International Criminal Court for, quote, vigorous investigation, unquote. In announcing this decision, President Ramaphosa publicly expressed his abhorrence for what is happening right now in Gaza, which is now turned into a concentration camp where genocide is taking place. To accuse a state of committing acts of genocide and to condemn it in such strong language is a major act on the part of a state. At this stage, it became clear that there was a serious dispute between South Africa and Israel, which would end only with the end of Israel's genocidal acts. South Africa repeated this accusation at a meeting of BRICS on 21 November and at an emergency special session of the United Nations General Assembly on 12 December. No response from Israel was forthcoming. None was necessary. By this time, the dispute had crystallized as a matter of law. This was confirmed by Israel's official and unequivocal denial on 6 December that it was committing genocide in Gaza. However, as a matter of courtesy, before filing the present application, on 21 December, South Africa sent a note verbal to the Embassy of Israel to reiterate its view that Israel's acts of genocide in Gaza amounted to genocide, that it, as a state party to the Genocide Convention, was under an obligation to prevent genocide from being committed. Israel responded by way of a note verbal that failed to address the issues raised by South Africa in its note and neither affirmed nor denied the existence of a dispute. This was emailed later on the 27th of December. This note was received by the relevant South African team on the 29th of December after the present application was filed. On 4 January, South Africa replied to this note verbal, highlighting Israel's failure to prevent any response to the matters raised by South Africa over the previous months, as reiterated in its note verbal. South Africa made it clear that given Israel's ongoing conduct against Palestinians in Gaza, the dispute referred to in its note verbal of 21 December remained unresolved and was plainly not capable of resolution by way of a bilateral meeting. Nevertheless, South Africa proposed a meeting on 5 January, again out of courtesy. Israel responded to this note verbal by proposing that
I'm not in my Tim Pool era, that's not true.
To coordinate a meeting at the earliest opportunity after the close of hearings in the present case. To this, South Africa understandably replied that such a meeting would serve no purpose. Madam President, these notes verbal are all to be found in the judge's folder. The existence of a dispute is a matter to be determined by an objective determination of the facts, as they existed at the time of the filing of the application. At this time, South Africa had already accused Israel in the Security Council, the General Assembly, and other public fora of engaging in genocidal acts. It had conducted a diplomatic démarche on Israel, warning it that it viewed its conduct as genocidal.
My question, what will be Israel's defense? I mean, we saw it. I don't know if you were around yesterday, Giovanni sub, but like we watched a hard-hitting interview with the Israeli ambassador on Canadian TV yesterday. We know exactly what it's going to be. It's going to be October 7th. We're the victims. The Holocaust, anti-Semitism, beheaded babies, mass rapes. We're doing surgical targeting. We're protecting the people of Gaza from Hamas. You know, whatever. It's like we've heard it a million times. It's just going to be all the bad faith bullshit gaslighting arguments, just one after another. That's all.
The criminal court to vigorously investigate crimes under the Genocide Convention committed by Israel in the Gaza Strip.
Yeah, human shields. No, they won't address the evidence. No, of course not.
Deliberate targeting of civilians, intentionally causing starvation and impeding relief supplies. It had accused Israel leaders of expressing, quote, the intent of committing genocide. Israel had flatly denied South Africa's accusations. Despite these harsh accusations, Israel has persisted in its genocidal acts against the population of Gaza. What more evidence could be required to establish a dispute? It is precisely because of a situation of this kind, affecting the international community as a whole, that Article 9 of the Genocide Convention does not require negotiations.
I really hope it's Dershowitz.
Seizing the jurisdiction of the court.
Please.
Certainly, a respondent state cannot prevent.
I thought it was a real suggestion.
That there is no
I hope it's true.
It wants discussions on this matter.
I hope they bring out the Dersh.
Is clear. For a state to insist on a time frame for negotiations would simply be a license to commit genocide and would run counter to the object and purpose of the Genocide Convention. Madam President, the question of the crystallization of a dispute has been addressed by this court in preliminary objections at the merit stage where the burden of proof is higher. Although the court has generally adopted a flexible approach to the
subject, and Giuliani,
it has
absolutely.
laid down a number of tests for the existence of a dispute. First, it must be shown that the claim
the court now invites the pedo counsel from Israel to give his arguments.
By the other. Second, the date for determining the existence of the dispute is the date of the application, but subsequent conduct may be considered. 3, whether the dispute exists must be determined by an objective determination of the facts. And 4, a dispute exists when it is demonstrated on the basis of the evidence that the respondent was aware or could not have been unaware that its views were positively opposed. When these propositions are applied to the facts of this case, it is incontrovertible that a dispute exists between South Africa and Israel. South Africa strongly believes that what Israel is doing...
Israel supported the South African apartheid regime until the very last moment as well.
Israel denies this and claims that such
which is a whole other connection to this case, which makes all the arguments about how South Africa should just sit this one out even more preposterous. Israel fully supported the apartheid government for obvious reasons because they shared so many common characteristics. Which makes it all the more ridiculous that someone like John fucking Fetterman would say, they should sit this one out.
And, moreover, is obscene. So an objective determination of the facts shows that a dispute existed on the date of the submission of South Africa's application, and this has been confirmed by Israel's subsequent statements and by its continuing conduct in Gaza. Moreover, Israel must have been aware from South Africa's public statements, the démarche, and the referral of the matter to the International Criminal Court of Israel's genocidal acts that a dispute existed between the two states. Madam President, the Court has indicated that in an application for provisional measures, it is sufficient to show that there is a prima facie basis for jurisdiction. It is submitted that South Africa has convincingly established the existence of a dispute between it and Israel over the fulfillment of the latter's obligations under the Genocide Convention. Finally, it is submitted that regard should be had to the special considerations that apply to the existence of a dispute under Article 9 of the Genocide Convention between a state that brings an application in furtherance of its obligation to prevent genocide and a state accused of committing genocide. This concludes my speech, Madam President. I thank you, the members of the Court, for your attention. I now ask you to call to the podium Professor Max du Plessis to address you on the nature of the rights requiring protection and the link between such rights and the measures requested. Thank you.
I thank you, Professor Dugard. Before I give the floor to the next speaker, the Court will observe a coffee break of 10 minutes. Sitting is adjourned.
I'm tired of this feeling like I'm going to sneeze. I like this coffee break idea. I think I need a coffee break. I'm actually very tired. I almost felt myself kind of drifting off a couple times there. And in fact, I think that's probably all the time we have to look at these proceedings today. There's a long segment there that's over then. How much time do I have left? This is interesting. A group of South African lawyers have written to the U.S. president warning his government that they intend instituting proceedings against them for being complicit in ongoing international crimes perpetrated by Israel against the people of Palestine. Pretty amazing.
The sitting is resumed. I now give the floor to Professor Max du Plessis. You have the floor, Professor.
Madam President, distinguished members of the Court, it is a privilege to appear before you It's truly my honor to represent South Africa in these proceedings. I will be focusing on the nature of the rights that South Africa seeks to preserve through its application and the link between such rights and the measures requested.
The weirdest thing started happening to me. Most times I'm going to sneeze, now I get a wave of nausea, and then it goes away immediately after I sneeze. Now back to the genocide hearings. Have there been new developments? Not really. I mean, like we said, I think Israel's defense is going to come tomorrow. So I think that might have to do it from the footage of this today. I do have to go in about half an hour. And I don't think we have time to watch the entire rest of the video. But just watching that first bit, it's incredible how well argued it is, how comprehensive it is, like on so many different levels. You have people coming in to represent each different kind of like aspect of the accusation. It's meticulously researched. It's built in large part on on words and rhetoric and statements made by powerful Israeli officials all the way up to Netanyahu. Where's that clip of Netanyahu actually? Yeah, and it's like we can talk about the possibility of how toothless this is, or how it's theater, or it's not going to have the immediate effect that we think it might. But obviously, they are flailing a little bit. Like, I don't think it's a coincidence that the night before they put out this video, which runs totally contrary to things that they themselves have been saying for 3 months now.
I want to make a few points absolutely clear.
And it's in English,
Israel has
too.
no intention of permanently occupying Gaza or displacing its civilian population.
Go back to Philadelphia.
Israel is fighting Hamas terrorists, not the Palestinian population.
They are killing
and we're doing so
the Palestinian
in
population.
full compliance with international law.
It's not.
The IDF is doing its utmost to minimize civilian casualties.
They're not.
While Hamas is doing its utmost to maximize them by using Palestinian civilians as human shields. The IDF urges Palestinian civilians to leave war.
This is a little preview of what their argument's going to be tomorrow.
Making phone calls, providing safe passage corridors, while Hamas prevents Palestinians from leaving at gunpoint, and often with gunfire. Our goal is to rid Gaza of Hamas terrorists and free our hostages. Once this is achieved, Gaza can be demilitarized and de-radicalized, thereby creating a possibility for a better future for Israel and Palestinians alike. I want to make
I don't think it's a coincidence that they're putting this out, this kind of video, you know? Oh. Yeah, bombing refugee camps. It's just all lies. And they rely on a Western audience that just repeats the lies unquestioningly, like we saw in that interview yesterday. Yeah, we're going to de-radicalize Gaza. It's really de-radicalizing Gaza by murdering entire people's entire families. God, I saw the most fucking horrific acronym that stuck with me all day. I'm trying to remember the exact. It's like WCNPR. WCNPR. Is that right? It's not. I'm trying to find the acronym, but it's yes. Sorry, Mekilex. Thanks for saying the actual thing that I'm trying to remember. WCNSP, wounded child, no surviving parents. Like, and this is like enough of an ongoing phenomenon that it's like describing large numbers of children. Wounded child, no surviving parents. Do you think that's going to have a de-radicalizing effect in Gaza? Is that going to have a de-radicalizing effect? Murdering children's entire families? Like, you don't need to have kids to, like, understand the pain that people have been living through. And a number of people have expressed this sentiment, but it's not hard to understand. Someone murders your child. Someone murders your father, your sister, your brother, your uncle, your mother. The first thing you're going to fucking do is join Hamas. First thing. And if Hamas goes away tomorrow, if they arrest or assassinate every single Hamas leader, there will be another group. There will be another extremist group, and then they'll have to go after them. And when someone does this to you, murders your family, what's the first fucking thing any normal person is going to do? Is join these exact groups. I saw a video of a crying kid and a comment saying, I can't condemn what this kid grows up to be. And I get it. Of course. It's completely understandable. It is completely understandable. Yeah, like people have talked about, Al-Qassam is a majority orphan militia. Hang on just one sec. I gotta blow my nose. I'll be right back. Okay. It's so frustrating how much people don't realize how your entire personality is changed by these conditions, living in them your whole life. It's silly for some suburban jerk to think they'd be themselves in that situation. Yeah, I mean, it's the ultimate kind of like Western chauvinist mentality, right? And like we talk about people that lose their entire families, but it's like even the idea of living in that environment and growing up with the threat of that just dangling over your head, you know? And even if your family is somehow miraculously doesn't get targeted, you know someone that lost a father or a mother or a brother or a sister or a cousin or a nephew or an uncle. You know, everyone you know is affected by it. And this constant threat is just hanging over your head for your entire life. And you can't leave. I can't look at the Eve Barlow because I'm blocked. Oh no, you post from that Kayvon guy. I actually have that guy blocked. But I get it. She sucks. I understand. They never considered their point of view, and why would they? And as you say, racism is the foundation of this. Yeah, and it's like the idea of someone living in like the suburbs or whatever, lecturing people for the decisions they make after growing up in this kind of environment. Reading up on Hamas leadership, it almost always starts with them born in a refugee camp. Yeah, I mean, it's like It's really not that difficult to wrap your mind around. Eve Barlow literally began her article with, "I'm not a lawyer, but I'm an expert in anti-Semitism." She's such an expert that she thinks a free parking sign is anti-Semitic. What is this that Old Dutch is sending me here?
But I'm going to post it because keep pushing. This is the caliber of information that we're up against.
This is what's really going on behind the targeted assassination of the Hamas official in Beirut, Lebanon, and why Israel is so blatantly lying about it. The short answer is because they're losing the war against Hamas, and they're trying to get American boots on the ground.
Boop, 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 boop. I'm gonna need you to take your tinfoil hat off your head and put your conspiracy theories to the side. Israel has made it abundantly clear that they are going to take out all the leaders of Hamas, and everybody...
Like, when you look, when your eye, like the eyes, yeah, like you look like an insane person. And you're talking about a mass murder of children going boop, 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 and doing weird theater kid characters. Like, what the fuck is wrong with these people?
Involved in the October 7th attack on Israel. No matter what country they are in, Israel's gonna get them. Similar to when Israel went after that nasty German ideology that I will not say, they hunted down every single one of those nasty creatures in countries all over the world. True? And that is exactly what we are going to do with Hamas.
And then they ask them for pointers about how to have a government?
Exit down. And as far as attacking Hezbollah in Lebanon, Hezbollah has been attacking Israel from Lebanon for about 40 years now. Most recently...
Old Dutch, why are you making me look at this?
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
The cotton balls on her sweater are red because they are soaked in blood.
Nays Zero, thank you. Thank you for the 16 months of tier 1. Old Dutch, I love you, man. But like, come, what is this? What is this? Look at her. Good Lord.
After October 7th, when they started launching those rockets back over, because they were like, wait a minute, we want in. Not to mention that Hezbollah violated the UN ceasefire in 2006, when the UN created a demilitarized zone, where they currently still have military. So, like I said, you should definitely keep the hat off, stop creating your own narrative, and just live in reality, not the reality that you're making up in your head.
What the hell? The hell was that? It's the theater kid energy as well. Manic genocide Zoomer Pixie. If we want to leave it on something, I did do a TikTok last night about this this whole cum extraction story. We really need to talk about this Israel corpse sperm extraction story. I'm starting to do more TikToks now. And news. It says about 100 sperm extractions have been performed from soldiers and civilians who were killed since the beginning of the war. Until yesterday, about 70 sperm extractions were performed from cavities since the beginning of the ground maneuver in Gaza. Now, setting aside the creepy
kind of eugenicist implications behind this obsession with rescuing sperm from deceased people. Setting aside all that, we're talking about removing or extracting sperm from corpses. And I just feel like surely there's a better and more efficient way to go about that process. For example, maybe you could do that when people were alive. You could collect that kind of a sample if that's what you were looking for. I don't know. It all just seems really weird to me, honestly. We
messed up. Folks, I've got to go in about 15 minutes. I have Discord open, Marty. I see that. I'm not clicking on that. I'm not clicking on that, Marty. I've got to go in about 15 minutes, folks. I've not really paused. I've not really shilled today. I'm trying to get better at shilling more regularly, and then I kind of forgot today. It was I really enjoyed covering this and watching these arguments, and I think it's been really important to talk about this. If you can, please subscribe to TRRS before I got to get going. I'm a mere 28 subs away. I'm a mere 28 subs away from the goal, which is barely anything at all. So if you can, please subscribe to TRRS, get all the emotes, all the tiny little images, join the community, become a base level member of the Friendship Triangle system, or in the Chaos Zone.
You're gonna have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
With 5 gifted subs, you can find yourself in the elite tier of the Friendship Triangle system. Falcor, thanks for the Prime sub. Brand new community member. Falcor, always love to see new community members showing up. I appreciate the Prime bucks. Falcor, thank you for that. And now only 27 subs to go. In 10 minutes should be no problem. Rumor has it that the Friendship Triangle will extract your sperm if you die. No, we could do it the old-fashioned way. We extracted before. Okay? All the sperm extraction will be prior to death, not after. That's my promise to you. Okay? That's the Rob Rousseau guarantee. All the cum will be extracted pre-humously, not posthumously. That's the TRRS promise. The extraction room is just the communal gooning room. Ace volunteers to go first. Look at that. We got volunteers already. I'm a semen extraction traditionalist, you might say. That's right. What do you think guys think happens in the Chaos Zone? Oh my. It will all be extracted prior to. Prior to death, and not afterwards. Okay? This is unrelated, this. That GIF is totally unrelated to what I'm talking about. Totally unrelated. Can we please get a hype train with this GIF on? I can't even get anything. I can't even get anything at all, Marty. It is truly innovative of Israel to not state-sponsored necrophilia. After all, it is a dying art. Maybe there's certain arts that should die. I don't know. And I think that's one of them. I got about another 8 minutes, folks. Another 8 minutes. A mere 27 subs to go. Would anyone else like to support TRRS? It is $4.99 to subscribe to this program. Every little bit helps me keep this show on the air. It is the only way that I'm able to continue doing this show every day, is with the generous contributions of the TRRS
and have good
community.
Old Rob to talk you through all this.
Not another bean stain. First 2 gifted subs in the channel from our friend, and new valued community member, Not Another Bean Stain. Thank you for the 2 gifted subs. I really appreciate that. And now a mere measly 25 to go to get to the goal, which should be no problem. Jack of all trades. More like jack off all trades. In some ways. What am I looking for here? Sorry if that was loud. Rob is so pro-labor that he says jack off all trades. That's right. That's how much I love and respect the working class. On the leaderboard right now, we got Calm Like a Tom with 20 gifted subs this month. In second place, we got our friend Diego, aka Comrade Social Distancing, with 11, and we got Sikalu Fakus with 6. Over 6 will get you on the leaderboard.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
LFG can't wait for VIGAY.
VK. OnlyFacts, thanks for the 21 months, Tier 1. I appreciate it, OnlyFacts. Thank you. And only 24 to go. Only 24 subs to go. Should be no problem. And again, over 6 subs will get you on the leaderboard. You could be on the leaderboard. It's totally up for grabs right now. What an opportunity, and you're just throwing it away.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Baby Gravy, thank you so much for the gifted sub. A couple first-time gifters in the chat.
You've just become an elite member of the Friendship Triangle.
A couple of first-time gifters today. I love to see that. Thank you, Baby Gravy, for the gifted sub. And thank you also to our friend and valued community member, Toilet Bowl Toots.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Thank you, Toilet Bowl Toots, for the 5 gifted subs. Very much appreciated. And here, drink this. Thanks for the 2 gifted subs as well. That is also very kind of you. We do have a bit of a hype train going now, folks. I got another
You can count on
5
me.
minutes or
You're gonna have
so.
good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Shosh 1 Community TRRS Drums.
Show Sheepy. Thanks for 7 months tier 1. I appreciate
We
that.
simply use the computer to mark up the size of the account.
Fart.
That just pops me every time. Bleep Lord, thanks for the 250 bits. I really appreciate that. We do have a hype train going now,
Wow,
folks. So,
okay, Rob.
oh my goodness.
Seriously, wow.
Oh my goodness. Holy moly. Holy moly.
You can count on me. You're gonna have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Of course, says, oh no, I didn't read the not sponsored by arms manufacturers. Well, that's the reason that I need to rely on people in this community. I don't have Raytheon or Lockheed Martin or anyone else financing me here, like most of our mainstream media establishments do. Kijiji Genie, thank you so much for 10 gifted subs. Absolutely absurd generosity. Kijiji Genie, thank you. I really, really appreciate that. That's so kind of you. It's weird not seeing my name on the leaderboard. Well, now it's there. And deservedly so. And thank you, Rayback92, for 5 months of tier 1. I appreciate that as well. And now a mere 4 subs away from the goal. A mere 4 subs away from the goal. That's totally doable. We've got Soy Prem dodging gift subs over there. We're level 5 of this hype train, so not only can you support this show and this community, you can also get access to very cool Twitch emotes, hype train emotes.
You can count on me.
That's
You're gonna
fun
have
as
good
well.
old Rob to talk you through all this.
Marty, thank you for the gifted sub. That's kind of you, Marty. I appreciate you, Marty. Thank you. And we got 3 subs to go. What's the NBA celebration they're always doing? Like a bow and arrow or something? I don't totally get it, but it's cool though. If I ever play basketball again, I'm going to do that if I make a 3-point shot. When I'm rich, I will sub. Thank you, Comrade Charmander. I appreciate that.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Oh, is it ice in veins? Okay. No, I think that's a different thing. I don't know. DJ Tom Hanks, thanks for the gifted sub to Vexing Thoughts. Thank you. I do like Quickly's when Quickly busted out the skip to Maloo celebration. I was like, lock this guy up for the next decade. Extend this guy immediately. Maximum money. They're not allowed to do the big balls celebration anymore, unfortunately. You get fined. I think Fred Van Vliet did the big balls celebration one time and he got fined. You get in trouble for that now. I guess you have to have the big balls in order to do it now, because now you're going to get in trouble as well. IQ's Player Tribune article says he's excited to start this new chapter with the Raptors. Honestly, Kijiji, I really want them to make it into the play-in tournament. I know that they could with how good they're playing, if they can stay healthy, make into that play-in tournament and maybe hopefully make some noise or go on some kind of run in the playoffs. But I feel a little bit better about this season, just the idea of having IQ and Scotty Barnes on the team for the next couple years. Like, I feel like they're in a good place, no matter what happens this season. Folks, we've got 1 minute left of this hype train and only 2 subs to go. Are there 2 brave heroes in this community that want to get me across the finish line today, drag my tired ass across the finish line, 2 subs to go. Oh, I'm really liking Jonte Porter Kijiji. And I talked about my friend Blake Murphy's profile on Jonte. What a great story he is. Struggling to get back to the NBA. Now he looks good. Like, there's a few of his shots that just haven't dropped, but like he really looks like he can be an actual contributor. Do you remember what you said to VJ for him to respond with the wow, Rob? I think we were talking about being accused of like supporting genocide because of like China stuff. I think that was the reason.
You can count on me. You're gonna have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Which I think, in the light of the last 3 months, is all the more absurd for people to accuse people of supporting genocide.
You can count
saying
on me.
Good things
You're gonna
about
have
China.
good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Crad Babes, thank you for the gifted sub. I really appreciate that, Crad Babes. And thank you, Max, as well, for 2 gifted subs. Max, thank you. Crad Babes, thank you. Amazing. I really, really appreciate the support, as always, folks. I wasn't sure if we were going to be able to get there. I've seen people get mad at people for saying Free Palestine and not mentioning Xinjiang. And it's ridiculous. The idea that you would still try and promote that narrative, given everything that we've seen over the last 3 months, is insane. Put me on the non-jack-off cadaver list. Okay, I guess so. I guess. We'll see. We'll think about it. We'll consider it, putting you on the list. Thanks again, folks, for watching the stream today. I got to go pick up my kid. Got to bring him back here. Got swimming lessons. I got podcasting I got to do later. I got a big night over here. Got a big night. Thank you so much, everyone, for supporting the show and watching the show. I really, really appreciate it. Big Night Rob, they're calling him. That's right. That's what they're saying. We were able to resolve Thermosgate, yes. Thank you, Diego, for tuning in and for all the support, as always. Give my regards to our friend Hildy Beast. Make sure you get Hildy Beast as flustered as possible. As usual, that's the mission. Usually successful, it's true. Take care, folks. Free Palestine, from the river to the sea.